Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Donspektor here, today with another tip review. And on this day I have for you probably a tip that flew under pretty much most people's radar, the SoftEars Liquid Silicone ear tips. Yes, that's right, until I found those randomly. I also didn't know SoftEars made their own tips, which from how much at least I could gather when looking at online, are really like tips that are produced like from SoftEars or from an OEM directly for SoftEars. So you can't really find them on other IEMs, at least from what I could see. So yeah, today I'm taking a look at these tips because before knowing they also made tips, I only knew that they usually make relatively expensive IEMs that are renowned to be at least well tuned. And yeah, when I saw those tips, I was like, come on, why not? Let's just order them. So yeah, that's what I'm having here. At least I'm having the packaging. And yeah, as usual, I will be starting off talking about some general facts. And yeah, this of course includes the pricing. And this is the packaging, how you would get them. So you can see it comes with two pairs. Here I have a pair for you, but we take a look at that later on. And these two pairs get sold for $18. That means per pair you are paying $9, which is definitively not cheap at all. You can find quite a bit cheaper tips that are still good, but also not that expensive. The most expensive tip here that I've tried so far would be the ASLA crystal ear tips, which clock in at $12.5 per pair. So these liquid silicone tips here would be like with $9, roughly in the same ballpark as X-Elastics, which would be like $9.5 per pair. And yeah, you know, I've already said it, X-Elastics are the most comfortable tips you can buy if you get them in size smaller than usual, and if you wear them for a weight packet, super comfortable. Because yeah, memory silicone is just very, very good. So yeah, that's just to give you a rough overview of how much those cost. And then, I think after we tackled the cost and from the general information here, let's directly jump into comfort. And I'm not sure how to say this. I did look up information about those and I didn't find them. So I was just not really expecting much, especially when I got them. And now let's take a closer look at one of the tips here. And you can see this fake ring around the edge. And it didn't feel as squishy. You can see like if I press it down, like really not so squishy. And my first impressions was, I'm not sure if those will fit me at all. And also because they don't even specify what liquid silicone means. Like you can't find any product description that says anything. Like seriously, when I looked up what this product is supposed to do, I couldn't find it. Like they don't say anything about what's supposed to do, like how is it making things comfortable. It just says exactly like this, liquid silicone tips, and then it says the dimensions. So yeah, there's no descriptions of our packaging. Just to give you an example, these are the ASLA crystal. Like you can already see here what you've included, like what sizing this is. And the back we have more information, including the sizing here. And it says what material you having. And like this is a lot of useful information. Like of course it's marketing BS as well, but some of this information is useful. And with these you don't get anything. And long story short, I haven't expected much. So that's why maybe my comfort evaluation here is quite a bit better than my initial impressions, because these tips are really comfortable, like really comfortable. When I looked it up and researched from them, like the only information I could find was from Shenzhen Audio and tweet saying SoftEars UC ear tips is on now, which made of high permeability liquid silicone based on ergonomic design to fit the ear canal closely and ensuring the lossless of bass. Yeah, that's what it says. Improving the performance of sound quality of treble and bringing comprehensive improvement. Like, that's not great English, even for me who is not native English speaker. Like, this is not great English here. Sorry bros, you got to work on your English skills. But so it doesn't really say anything about comfort. And as I said, they're incredibly comfortable. And I have the S pair here, which this again doesn't specify. But S is in fact not as small as I thought it would be, yeah, because there's no SS here. Like S is the smallest size, and this one is, let me flip it around, 11 millimeters in diameter. M would be 12.5 and L would be 14 millimeters in diameter. The inner outlet here, can see it here, that is 4.5 millimeter, and you can see it's just a straight tube. Like, let me flip it around. Like, there's no shaping going on. It's just a straight tube, nothing else. No specific dots inside, no grooves or horn shape. It's just a straight tube, nothing else. However, S is pretty long for an S ear tip. It comes in at 9.6 millimeters, which oddly is longer than M, which only is 9.4 millimeters in length. So I'm not sure who thought that's a good idea, but yeah, just saying here, it's relatively long for an S ear tip. And yeah, also no SS is sold, or no MS or no ML. So really, you just have M, S, and L, and that's it. And yeah, if your ear canal is really small, I can see this tip maybe being a bit too big for you. But for me, who usually uses SS tips and has bought S here, yeah, like it totally fits me well. Like I have no problems on all of the IMs I threw this on. My favorite one to throw the liquid silicone tips on is, however, good boy, Shure S12. Like really, these with liquid silicone tips, perfect for my ear. Like really, it just fits so safe and so comfortably. Like this is really best tip I could find for the S12 overall. Like really, it's perfect for my ear. So yeah, what else can we say about comfort? Oh, yeah. Another point that makes these really good for my ear, they are slightly sticky. Pretty difficult to demonstrate here, but if I just move my fingers over it, it's not as smooth as other tips. Like it's difficult to show friction here, but yeah, it's a bit sticky. It is, in fact, let me just get crystal tips here. That's crystal. Crystal is much smoother, like really it just goes whoop, and I slide off. These definitely are more sticky. And yeah, you can also see clearly here that the front ring around the outlet here is much thicker with these. But again, let me say, I thought this would be a problem, but whatever liquid silicone actually means, it is very pliable. So once it gets warm in your ears, it is really comfortable and it does not apply any pressure to the inside of my ear canal, and it just makes it very well wearable, even on longer nozzle IEMs. Yeah, so in terms of my ranking, I did put them pretty high up there. So most comfortable ear tip would be XLS Text, followed by cut foam, then spin fit in the same level as liquid silicone. Here I'm referring to a spin fit CP360, because my ear canal is also not that long and the shorter ear tips just work better for me. Then after that crystal, and then approximately on the same, maybe a bit below finally, and then spring ear tips, and as last but not least, then the Zedner ear fit, the normal tips. They really are not good, and I cannot recommend them just because they are too hard to just wear in your ears. So yeah, I think that sums up comfort here. It's pretty damn comfortable. The only problem could be that the sizing options are not that great for you. So if your ear canal is pretty small or relatively short, this can be too long or it can be too big, like really depends on your ear canal. And then this brings me to the next chapter, noise isolation. And yeah, as we are talking about the silicone ear tips, like the crystal here, of course, noise isolation is not that great. Other silicone ear tips, like the Final East, they have a relatively thick mantle and a thick like inside here. Same to the crystal here, as you can see. Let's give you an A to B comparison. So ones with thicker mantle and thicker inside usually isolate a bit better. And this, as you can see, has clearly a thin outer layer, while having, I want to say like normal inside cylinder here with like maybe a bit thicker than crystal. But that usually means it doesn't isolate that good. And here I can confirm it's still better than I expected, most likely because you have this ring here, which definitively does add some mass and some noise absorption capabilities to the tip. But compared to other tips, like other silicone tips, they aren't that good. So I'm using an artificial scale here because I just lack the equipment to measure it precisely. I would give them like 10 is really good foam tips and 1 is really thin silicone ear tip. This is like an 5.5 to maybe 6.5. Really depends on the nozzle as well, because as I said, this ear tip definitively is on the longer side. As you can see, it's like still millimeter longer than the, or like half a millimeter longer than the crystal ear tips. So if you put it on a long nozzle IEM, like the IEM itself will stand out more in this direction out of your ear than it would be with a shorter ear tip. So on shorter nozzle IEMs, this works great for me, and this just makes it isolate pretty good. That's why I said like a 6.5 there. But on longer nozzle IEMs, for instance, the LZ A7 that has like, I think, a 5mm or 6mm nozzle even, it just doesn't work as great there, and you definitely lose a bit of isolation. So yeah, again, between 5.5 and 6 in terms of isolation on my artificial scale. And that brings me to shaping sound. And as I already said in my last reviews, from now on I'll include a subjective part, which I start with, and the objective part, the second one, in which I just flop on the tips on 2 IEMs and measure them with my IEC 711 coupler. So you can see how they subjectively, without me telling you how I feel it sounds, just pure data showing you how it measures, or what the difference are between tips. And I start with subjective. And yeah, my benchmark ear tip, sorry I don't have it here at the moment, oh wait, I have my casing here. Let's just look if I can find my benchmark ear tip. Let's see, oh here it is, tips out of the way you go. This, ladies and gentlemen, is my benchmark ear tip. I think it came with the H40, and it's just random ass silicone. It's relatively thin, as you can see here, doesn't have anything special. And also the outlet here is just 4.5mm or so in diameter, so it's pretty much average. Like, it's not small in diameter outlet, it's not big, it's average. Like maybe a bit bigger than average in terms of outlet, but this is my benchmark ear tip, and I just use it as comparison because something like this you would have included with most of your IEMs. And I think it's a good base point to start here. So yes, let me just then grab this tip so we can have a comparison. And as you can see, well, diameter is pretty much the same. And that also means the sound is pretty much the same as like medium wide bore tips used to have. So yeah, you do get mids that are pretty uneventful, like we don't do anything similar to bass. Like it doesn't get worse, like with crystal, for instance, on some IEMs. It doesn't get better than, yeah, on the fine lead tips. It just is pretty much average all around. And yeah, that trend continues to treble. Maybe I would say treble is a bit increased here, but really not by a lot. And it's just, yeah, it comes pretty close to what I would, yeah, use as my benchmark ear tip here, which again makes sense. As you can see, diameter is pretty much identical. So yeah, didn't do anything to the sound in terms of feeling for me, and yeah, it's fine. Like, I have no complaints, doesn't do anything good to sound or anything bad, it just is. And it brings me to objective, which of course is measured, and again, I'm measuring with the LZ A7 and the H40. So to have a bit of a difference between something L-shaped, which pronounces bass, and something more neutralish, which would be the A7, which just is not exactly flat, but much more flat than the H40 would be in comparison. And yeah, as you can clearly see here, what these tips do, they are pretty similar to a bit wider bore ear tips. So again, you're looking at the Zettner earfit tips, which are like, I think 5.5mm in outlet even. Well, yeah, those are pretty damn close overall. And yeah, it's like 1 or 1.5mm difference in outlet. So pretty interesting. I think this could be due to the additional mantle at the front that might affect some resonance frequencies or so. I'm not entirely sure, but the same trend can be seen on the H40 as well. So first thing was for A7 off of the H40. Yeah, like generally the characteristics are pretty close to wider bore ear tips. And to my ear, this difference again is pretty minimal, and I haven't noticed them when just using the benchmark ear tip here. But yeah, generally these are like medium wide bore, right? 4.5mm is not that small. So it's just interesting to see that objectively speaking, these 4.5 millimeter are pretty similar to more solid material or the more like dense material that is used on the A7 ISN ear tips. Again, horn shape, what we have here with the crystal, different story of course, but yeah, just keep in mind, those definitively do deteriorate base, so be careful with those. And it brings me to the next chapter, which would be additional factors. And I don't really have additional factors with this one here, even though this is very clear, as you can see here, like this is like not like crystal clear, this is more like white hued. Like the Asla crystal here, those are crystal clear even after months of usage. So this one is definitely more white hueish, and maybe it still colors like yellow tinted, like the crystal, like the XLastex here. That's an XLastex that is like half a year old or so. And I haven't been even wearing them that much, but well, you can see like those are yellow, like they don't look so fresh anymore. But I haven't noticed anything happening in the last months with these crystal tips, with the liquid silicone tips here. So I suppose they're also relatively long lasting. However, I would still recommend you just rinsing them under some warm water, but I think even soap would be okay. I'm not sure about alcohol because they said something about permeability at the top. I don't know, I would be careful with alcohol, but I think just rinsing them in warm water or a bit of soap is totally no problem. And yeah, from what you can see here, they should also be relatively long lasting. And other point I have to mention here, after using them even on thicker nozzles, which you can't really see at the bottom here, they also don't seem to stretch over time, as for instance the XLastex did, which definitely did get pretty loose over time. Those did not happen to them so much. So yeah, they should be pretty much lasting, and you can throw them on probably quite a few IEMs. But again, let me still mention this is sticky, so if you don't like sticky in your ear, that could be a factor for you. And yeah, because it's slightly sticky, it also does need to be cleaned more often than other tips, but generally it's fine, just rinse them and it should be okay. Okay, I think yeah, that's pretty much it about additional factors. There isn't too much to say about them here. And that brings me to the conclusion, and let me get up crystal again. Whoop. So, in conclusion, the liquid silicone ear tips are definitively not cheap, and they're pretty flying under the radar of everyone, but they are surprisingly comfortable, making them a good choice for my ear for all shorter nozzle IEMs. In fact, I would even go as far as to say, yeah, I really like them with the S12 or with other shorter nozzle IEMs, just because they are extremely comfortable, they are still flexible, they have still a decent isolation, and last but not least, they're slightly sticky, so they also feel relatively safe in my ear. And yeah, if you don't like your tips to be sticky, that might be the biggest disadvantage here. Or if your candle is relatively short, those could be a bit too long. But generally, I don't see any problems, and I could also fit them on all of my IEMs, including the variations, which has like 6.5 millimeter and 6.4 millimeter nozzle. So it also is pretty pliable and yeah, should fit almost all IEMs you can buy. And that's why I would say I would recommend them. They're pretty good, not cheap, but pretty good, and they should fit most ears just well. And with this, I'd say, hope you enjoyed it. If you have feedback, if you have questions, if you have other tips you can recommend me, leave a comment. And with this, Donspektor out.